we're joined today by the lovely Gillian McAuliffe.
One of our very special mentors, and we're delighted that she's been part of our journey for so long. And we're here Zentangling with Jill, which is something that she introduced to us about 3 years ago now, Jill. Discovered Zentangling. And we've had such a busy day, and it's just such a pleasure to sit down and take some quiet time just drawing and focusing and reflecting.
Breathing.
I think it's one of the things which is missing out of our lives today is that opportunity to stop. Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that we need to think about when we're working and when we're in nature or anywhere with children, is that they have that issue too, that their lives are so busy and their minds can't switch off. And then if their minds are so full and moving, how can they let new things, new experiences in? How can they notice what's going on around them? So when we take them out into natural environments, we need to give them that chance to be, and not always expect them to do things, just to sit under a tree or to sit for hours and watch the waves come in on the ocean helps you to get rid of the noise in your brain, which is actually what Zentangling does for me and for lots of people. It gets rid of that noise in my brain. When I can't go out into nature, the best thing is to Zentangle in nature. But if you can't, then noticing the small things that are involved, taking things down from a whole down to the smaller parts helps you to see and to be at peace, and it gets rid of the noise in your brain. And that's a kind of that's what I see as stillness, is that you have space to welcome in new ideas, to welcome in new experiences, and to actually see what's around you. And I don't know whether a lot of the things that we tend to do with kids in nature actually allow kids that space.
We've been reading a bit about mind reset, which I relate to daydreaming, I think, in class. So when I was in primary school, I used to stare out the window and daydream, and then hook back onto what the teacher was saying and be ready to learn again. And we're finding that in the research about adult classrooms, being outside, learning in nature gives you a chance to just take that breath and just drift off for a moment. Yeah. Give your mind a break before you're ready to focus and take on new information.
Why do you think it's the natural environment that supports that, that stillness more than...
Yeah, because daydreaming is always usually looking out the window, looking at the corner.
But it's interesting because it's... Why is stillness supported so much more outside? Or is it because outside you actually have more of your senses excited to welcome in that new things? Is it because inside your senses are so dulled by the sameness of the light, the sameness of the temperature, the lack of wind? What is it which makes going outside into stillness? I mean, we look at kids when they do silent reading.
Yeah.
And when I asked a group of 7 and 8-year-olds a few years ago where they like to read, it was outside, and their answers were all sensory. The light's better, it's not as noisy, the air's fresher, I've got more room, all those kinds of sensory type things which said to them, this is where I want to be still and read. So is it because there is more sensory, you're more alive in a sensory way?
I definitely think so. Thinking back to that time that you sent us out for that 3 hours, as someone who talks a lot, I found it really hard not to talk, so I actually started talking to myself and going through that process of I was the conversation that I was having with myself. And when I got to a point of stopping that conversation, the noise that nature provided was quite overwhelming to begin with. So, like you say, the diversity in the sounds and the textures and light and movement around me actually to begin with was really overwhelming, but when I was comfortable sitting with that, then there was stillness. Whereas inside, that the sameness doesn't allow you, I guess, to sift down into that space as much.
No, I don't. I think you're right. I don't think it does.
Well, thank you very much, Jill. It has been a delight just sitting here drawing and chatting to you.
Beautiful. Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
I miss this actually.
I will. I know it's hard to fit into your days, but it would be really awesome if you could do some while you're away.
Yeah.
And just journaling, even if there was just a little bit of tangle in the corner, but even journaling and reflecting and writing poetry and collecting flowers and pressing them in the book, or all those sorts of things, just as a reflection. Because I know that we go to digital these days, but it's really nice to look at a book.
And it's got a tactile nature to it as well.
Anyway, it'll last you for years. It's got lots of pages.
Thank you. That's wonderful.
Thank you, Jill.
You're welcome.